Good afternoon and welcome to the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake meeting of council held August the 21st, 2018. And before we start our regular meeting, we have this notice to read.
If I could, Your Worship, I'd like to intervene here. The notice that is put on the agenda references a committee of the whole meeting on September 4th to discuss waste bylaw, animal control bylaw, taxi bylaw, private fire routes, backflow prevention bylaw, sewer use bylaw, property standards bylaw, and land sales bylaw. It's big. We would like to recommend to council that we break this up a little bit and that on the 4th we bring forward just the waste bylaw and the animal control bylaw. That would be all that we would bring in because those are big topics. We need to have enough time to for proper consultation and to actually deliberate. The other ones, we would like to hold public consultations at on a separate meeting, so we're not blocking the last 2 days, I guess it is, of the council meetings, and we can bring back the feedback that we collect at the end of that period. It could be with the new council, but at least it's giving us an opportunity to do the process properly and giving the public the opportunity to contribute. Thank you.
So the notice is that council will hold a committee of the whole meeting on September the 4th, 2018 to discuss the waste bylaw and the animal control bylaw. Before we start our meeting, we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Have the approval of the agenda.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan and seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council approves the agenda for its regular meeting of August 21st, 2018 as presented.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None declared. Petitions and delegations? None. Acceptance of the minutes and recommendations?
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council accepts the minutes of the following meetings. The meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for an application for minor variance held Tuesday, May 29th, 2018. The regular meeting of council held July 24th, 2018. And the meeting to open sealed tenders for scrap metal at the Kirkland Lake landfill site held July 31st, 2018.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Reports of municipal officers, communications. Wilf, you're going to speak on item 6.1.
Yes, sir. As Kirkland Lake Gold expands its operations, there will be an increased demand on municipal services, specifically water and sewer. As usual, when we have an economic development issue like this, we try to reach out for some funding assistance. I'd like to put some applications in to FEDNOR and NOHFC in support of this. As I say in my report, there will be significant costs, but we are working with Kirkland Lake Gold to ensure that where it is appropriate, they will cover those costs for the town. Where it is appropriate, the town will cover its own costs. I'm thinking particularly for some of the stuff that's unique to us.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody, any questions on that? No? Okay. Okay, we have a couple of resolutions on that.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council authorizes the Director of Economic Development and Tourism to submit an application for funding to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation in support of Kirkland Lake infrastructure expansion. Total estimated cost, project costs are $2 million.
All in favor? Thank you. It's carried.
One more. And it's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council authorizes the Director of Economic Development and Tourism to submit an application for funding to FEDNOR in support of Kirkland Lake infrastructure expansion. Total estimated project costs are $2 million.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, item B.
Okay, sir. We promised a while ago that we would be undertaking a land inventory to identify new areas for commercial and industrial development, and that we would be following that up with a proposal for a community improvement plan that specifically targets commercial and industrial development. With the changes that have gone through with responsibilities and positioning, this project had to be suspended for a while, but we did issue an RFP. We had 2 groups respond. We're asking council for authority to negotiate an agreement with JL Richards for $36,665 to complete the project. We would anticipate that it would be completed by December, though we may hold for a bit of a carryover into January to provide the new council with proper briefings.
Questions? Yes, Councillor Roman.
I understand we were approved for $100,000.
Yes, sir.
So is there more work that we could get done with this money as opposed to only spending?
Yes, what you're seeing for 36,000 is the framework for the community improvement plan. It will probably identify some other areas that have to be done. So the dollars that have been approved are in the kitty for that. As well, there will be a marketing component that then takes what has been approved by council out to the market and promotes Kirkland Lake abroad for that. So that will be using up the full amount.
Okay, so the balance is still available?
That's
Okay,
right.
Thanks.
Councillor Mino.
Will, for the aspect of the marketing side of things, is that similar to what Smooth Rock Falls was promoting in the medias and all that?
Very much so.
So
We would be using the same model.
we'd be launching sort of open for business type of campaign, whatever.
Yes, sir. At the same time, we do need a new municipal website, so we're going to try to get as much leverage out of this as we can.
And when you say bureaucratic is effective, what's the other version?
Let's say that you can go out and make all kinds of promises and then struggle to make sure you can actually fulfill them. If you're doing it properly with the CIP, it takes you through a bureaucratic process with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, but at the end of the day, you are assured that what you are promising you can actually deliver. And that it is a little bit difficult, but it's worth it. We're one of the few municipalities that have not explored this in the last year. There was an excellent article in the Timmins Daily Press about how they are moving forward with theirs. And I think that you will see from that, okay, here's your CIP, what are the other plans or preparations you have to make? It could be a 20-year forecast plan as to where the municipality has to be for any aspect of that. We've got a lot of the bits and pieces with the official plan, with the zoning, et cetera, in place, but we need to bring it together and be able to take that to a company.
Okay.
That's where it comes from.
I like that approach. Thanks.
Thank you. And that's going to be a bylaw coming back for voting later. Item C.
A while ago, we were able to secure funding from the Ontario Trillium Foundation to conduct a facility condition and repurposing assessment on the old pool area. From the get-go, I emphasized this when I came to council before, as well as in discussions with the media, no predisposed inclination as to how this is going to work, what anybody's going to do with the old pool area. What we're looking for is give us an evaluation of the building structure and the systems, tell us what's wrong. Tell us what needs to be done short-term, long-term, medium-term, and use the destruction of the entire building envelope as your starting point and compare that. The studies were done. Salter Pilon was a project lead, but they brought in mechanical, they brought in other architectural, and they did a costing estimate. Roughly, if you were to destroy the building, be around 4.9, and if you were to start doing something with it to bring it up to usable condition, probably around 5 million. Now, we did hold public consultations. We had a number of children. Excuse me. Got to change the deodorant. We had well-attended sessions with everybody from seniors to current complex users to school children that gave their input as to what they would like to see it become. Obviously, it is attached to a fitness facility and a recreational facility, so most of the ideas were in that regard. What we did from that was we took, because they were very, very similar, we asked the consultants just scope it out, what it could potentially look like, what kind of cost that would be, knowing that it's not our decision to make, it goes back to the council. That's what they put together, and it is written up. Now, the study itself will be available online, and it is pretty detailed with some larger drawings, so showing it here to council is very difficult. The booklet itself is here for some people to peruse, and basically that ends that project.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, I look forward to the detailed version. I guess one of the disappointments I had in the report, and my expectation was that there'd be at least maybe 2, maybe 3 options. They really only came back with 1.
Yeah.
So it's hard to make an informed decision. Well, after we see the detailed report, I'm sure that'll help, but that was my initial thoughts on it anyway.
Most of the feedback that we got was very, very similar. Turn it into a multi-use recreational area you can play games in, basically like that. So it was reflecting that. But
The one thing, Wilf, that I noticed on there, it had some rental space. That concerns me. I don't think the town should be competing with multi-res, well, not multi-res, but commercial homeowner or landowners in Kirkland Lake. I don't know what, who would rent in that capacity. If it's professionals, we have chiropractors, physiotherapists in town. I wouldn't want to see the town competing with these particular professionals.
that would be.
And the rental aspect of it.
I think when they're talking about the rental space, it may not be just that. It could be for somebody who's maybe offering a course in rock climbing or something like that too. But at the end of the day, it's up to council to decide what they want in there.
Thank you.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Councillor Kiley says, but Wolf, the numbers, and I hesitate to say this too loudly, but the numbers seem to be targeting like some kind of funding, like that nice round number. Is that a possibility, or like
No.
this is?
No, I honestly don't think
The
so.
fact that the one ended up at 4.9 and the other one ended up at 5 just is coincidence, or?
I think it's more coincidence. The only conversation, and because I handle most of the funding, the only conversation I had with the consultants was, I want to have some kind of price tag in case with the federal election, something comes forward and council tells me to move. But after that, that consultant didn't do the costing. That was farmed out to a professional costing firm.
Okay.
And it is conditional on understanding that there was no intrusive or destructive testing done, and that it is a very broad figure. So that's the
Right,
extent of it.
so my I guess my query that was published in the paper today, but the fact that the number 4.9 could be less.
Yes.
If the testing comes back,
Yes, and
appropriately.
the number 5 could be significantly more if the testing comes back.
Okay,
We have to do much more in depth before we
Okay.
can do that.
thanks.
Yes, Councillor Shamiard.
Yeah, Cliff, Wilf, are we gonna fill out the pool right now? Is it full with sand or something, or are we planning on filling out?
I'm going to look right past you and look at Bonnie. Come on now.
Come
Bonnie can
there,
speak
Bonnie.
far better on what's been happening with the old pool at this point.
The pool is empty, so at this point right now, it is non-usable space because it is a hazard. So it is roped off, that the rooms are completely locked up. If we wanted to do anything, the minimum we'd have to do would be to fill it. So there would be a cost associated with filling it, but that has not been even thought of yet.
Because I don't know if we should think of this as a council as when we dig somewhere, if there's extra sand, like to put it in there, or rocks, whatever. Because it's dangerous too, like Bonnie said, the
It
room
is.
right now is
It's a
useless
hazard.
because we can't go in there because somebody might fall and break their neck. I don't know if you guys think that should be a thing we should look at, or like try to do it slowly. It doesn't have to be fast, but Like, we sometimes have sand and we have to bring it all kind of different place to dump it. I don't know how easy it is to dump there, but anyway, that's another problem.
Access is a bit of a challenge because we don't have large doors. We have double doors, but when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, just to add to your comments, Shami, I agree. Just even backfilling in with sand, no matter how we repurpose it, there's going to be a floor. So backfilling it in slowly, because I don't think this project's going to happen overnight based on the costs, that initial costs anyway. I guess my question is, the original consultant's report, inspection report on the pool, was that done by Salter Pilon as well? Or was it
No.
a different firm altogether?
That was a different firm altogether, Quantum Consulting, I think it was, in 2010. Also, the way that they went about draining the pool, it's a long process because they were pumping it out, pumping in water around it to stabilize it as well. So there was always a chance that something would still go wrong, but I think they did a good job. In terms of filling that in, I'd have to see what we have going on in construction that could even work with that right now. I would think that as a financial expenditure is deferred again to next year, but it's something that we could try to get a more firm price on and bring forward for the next budget consultations then.
Yeah, I think the reason why I asked about the consultant report is because one sort of conflicts the original report that we did receive that helped make us help with our decision with going ahead with the pool. So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the same
Yeah.
consulting firm.
No, the consultants that came to do this particular project also identified that as being of a moderate to high risk. So it wasn't fiction in 2010, it's not fiction now. They just were able to manage it. So.
Councillor Mino.
So when they drained it, there was no fissures or any cracks? Because that was the fear all along.
I don't believe so, eh? Nothing visible. Nothing visible, so again, intrusive and destructive testing would have to be done.
And the premise, is that like a health and safety hazard right now? Is it deemed to be one?
Yes.
It is?
The place has to be locked up and it's unusable. I would be concerned that if there's any other problems with the complex in more general nature, somebody wanders in there at night. I'm concerned about
But
that.
we're sealed off to the public.
Sealed off to the public, but you still have your staff there. And they have to be taken care of too.
Okay, and what about the heating system? That's off, so we're not heating it? Because that's a
It's
pretty big area.
integrated with the rest, but it's turned off to that section, yeah.
So it's right now, it's like a cold box waiting for us to
Yes.
take action? Okay.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, just to clarify, Bonnie, as far as the hazard goes, it can be made safe, though, without filling it up, right? I mean, the doors can be sealed or locked, or there's we don't need to fill it in, right?
No, it's safe right now as long as we don't have access
Right.
to people. So our staff are directed, they cannot go in there unless they're accompanied by a manager.
But we can up that to another level, can't we, where they don't even have keys for that area?
Law, absolutely.
Right. So I guess where I'm coming from, and I'm not trying to contradict anybody, but say, for example, the next council decides they want that rock climbing wall. Would that extra headroom from the base of the pool to the ceiling be of benefit? So I just would think a little bit more about filling it in immediately is all I'm getting at. Let's give that a little bit more thought.
Okay. Other questions? I just wanted to thank staff for bringing that report to our attention. I think it was more out of respect for this council, because certainly we won't be making any decisions on what's going to happen with the old pool. The new council will be doing that. So I just wanted to thank you for bringing that to our attention. But we do have a resolution.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council did commission Salter Pilon to do an assessment of the old pool area and that council has received the Kirkland Lake Community Complex Architectural Report, Facility Condition and Repurposing Assessment, with no action to be taken at this time.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 6D, the emergency replacement you had to do, Wilf?
Yeah, in the end of July, we had a valve seize and break that was feeding from the main water feed into the water tower. It was extremely serious situation. We treated it as an emergency and brought engineers and contractors in to have it repaired immediately. The hit to the community was about $111,000, I believe. And that would have to be taken then from the water budget in the future. Now, what I want to point out is that the Kirkland Lake Gold expansion project did identify replacement of some of these valves, and this was one of them. So we have included it in the funding applications, and if we are fortunate, then the money will come back to us at 90% or a percentage thereof. But I would just want the council to be aware that that cost has been incurred and will have to be accounted for.
Just a quick question is, while this was taking place, is that why we had some low pressure in some areas?
Yes, it
I think
is.
Chappie Hughes or Swastika, I remember hearing.
It was in Chappie Hughes, and yes, it had to be done that way so they could fill up the water tower first and then move on with dealing with the rest of the system.
Okay. Councillor Chamiard, Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, well, that's, had to be done right away. This is a
No
danger. Firefighting, for example, would be affected, and pressure was affected for lots of houses.
That's right.
It was done only in about 2 days. It was awesome. It could have been a long, bigger problem, but
Yeah.
those
No,
guys came back in the weekend and fixed it. And
Yeah, I
it
think
is what it is.
I think that town staff, Don Parcher and Dixit, were able to map it out very quickly and come up with the proper conclusions, and we acted on that.
Yeah, good job.
Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, Don Parcher may have to answer this, but I have relatives out in Chappie, and they were saying even after that valve was changed, the water pressure was, PSI was about 30. And I don't know what the acceptable level, my brother-in-law is not an engineer, but he tells me it should be at 45. And Don, maybe
Well,
you
that-
can clarify what,
And when was this as well? Put a time frame on it. Like if it was shortly after the break, it would take time to come up. Go ahead, Don.
there's no quick answer then? Okay.
Yeah, so what had happened is, due to the pressure, like the town was being run with the water filtration plant, the tower was totally out of line. So in order to fill it till it reaches to my understanding, to 10-meter level, then they can start filling it quicker, and that would increase the pressures in town, and then they can push it quicker. Because if we had any other breaks or anything in town, we had to ask some of our other industrial users to stop using.
Yeah.
Because we just wouldn't have been able to supply without Aqua monitoring the plant to control the pressures. So what had happened with the pressure loss is while they're filling that tower to get to that 10-meter elevation, it took a little bit more pressure out of the system, like into Chappie area and in town. And then because they're trying to fill it as well, it created quite a bit of discoloration as well, because it stirred it up.
I echo the same compliments that Councillor Chamiard mentioned. Within a 2-day period, you got it up and running, and it's credit to your team, so thanks for those efforts.
Well, we had a lot of help as well, thanks to Pedersen Construction and EXP for setting everything up with us.
Yep.
It was a team effort, so thank you very much.
Okay, next item is 6.2, and that's Hosea, you're going to speak on item A.
Yes, at the last meeting, council asked staff to take a look again, in particular look at the variable rates for loans. And we went back and looked at the various options. And the options that we looked at were Bank B, which we had recommended earlier on, which was fixed rate and not flexible at all, and no changes could be made. And then we looked at Bank A, which is the most flexible. However, future interest rates and payments are not predictable. And if we listen to all the bank economists, they are saying that the rates will continue to creep up. Therefore, it will be difficult for us to know how much it will be by the end of the 20th year. And Bank D is flexible, and also future interest rates and payments can be fixed for 20 years. So the variable rates at the moment are 2.56%. They range between 2.56% and 3.15%. This has actually gone up already. Yeah, the rates went up. Yes, the rates went up already. When we did these documents, those were the rates, 2.36 to 2.95. That was the rate. So you will see Bank A, B, and D on the implications here. Bank C had the highest rate of interest at 3.89%, basing it on fixed rates. And Bank B was 3.28, Bank A 3.33, Bank D 3.43. Going to the next section, the purpose is to finance the long-term financing of the aquatic center. And that's why we need to get a long-term loan to convert the construction loan that we had to a long-term loan. The rest of the information, it's all details that we have here. One thing I want to point out is, as far as the variable rates are concerned, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing actually have regulations that we cannot exceed 15% of our total indebtedness. In other words, we cannot get a loan on a variable rate which will result in more than 15% of our total debt. So if we look at that, Bank D allows us to have a floating rate for 10% of the loan, which will be 1.3 million, which we can later on pay or make a prepayment towards the total loan. And however, they will charge us 0.05%. They will increase their rate by 0.05% on that portion of the loan that is variable. The rest of the loan will be on a fixed rate. I think that's all that I wanted to just mention on this. So staff are recommending Bank D for the reason that it meets council's expectation of being flexible, and also we will be able to hold down the rates for the 20-year period.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, just, I agree, D looks like the road to go. Little concerned about the 20-year amortization versus the 25-year amortization. I received a comment by email from one of our residents concerned, and I'd like to read it to you. I certainly hope that council's comments about deferring the pool debenture will not be taken as a great sign of responsible government. The fact that the town will ever have extra funds should be to improving infrastructure and essential buildings rather than paying down a debt that will be with us for a very long time. Shorter amortization, example 20 years, puts additional upwards pressure on the tax levy, roughly about 1.2%. So I personally support a 25-year amortization as opposed to 20, because we have other capital expenditures coming up. We don't know what's going to happen with the decommissioning of the pool with the next council. The difference is about $125,000 a year in payments. So that's why I favor the 25-year amortization.
So, sorry, Councillor Kiley, now is that you or the writer of, who was the writer of the email? Helen Gordon. So she's supporting the 25, or you as a supporting the 2? Okay, because I wasn't sure if you were reading just her words, sorry.
No, I'm on the same wavelength as she.
25. Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jose. This was, you've actually hit sort of both issues at the same time that I raised at the last meeting. Now, for me, at the last meeting, it was either or. Either we had the flexibility to pay it down, or we went with the shorter term. You're recommending the shorter term and the flexibility to pay it down. I'm still okay with one or the other. Like, I'm okay with the 25 years if we have the ability to pay it down. But I'm certainly comfortable with your recommendation. So I appreciate that. It's very aggressive, and I think that we can cope with this.
Councillor Chamillard.
Yeah, Lucio, thank you. Good report. So I look at that quite closely. I know you said Bank D, but I like Bank A a lot because there seem to be a lot more options. What I would like to do, but again, that's good a vote. I agree with Pat, 25 years is the way to go. I would go with a floating part. You said 15% is maximum?
Yes.
So it'd be about 2 million maybe?
Yes, it's 15% of our total indebtedness, meaning all our other loans.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we might be able to go 3 million.
Yeah, we might be able to
Okay.
go 2 million.
There's a lot of reasons for this. First, the interest rate is a lot lower. I know you said it might go up, but it would have to go up almost 2% in the next 10 years before we start losing money, because we would save 1% at the start on the bigger amount. So there's a lot of stretch before we get in trouble. And looking around, I don't think the interest rate will be going to 5 or 6 like we've seen in the early 80s, because half the people in Ontario will be bankrupt tomorrow. So that's going to be pressure to keep it down. Also, being able to repay without penalty. I know Pat, she said, and I agree with her, don't take money from other place, but sometimes we get donation, and that's where we would use to pay the pool. Not take money from infrastructure, for example, to pay the pool. That's not the idea, I think. And we had some before. It happened, and we paid the Hockey Heritage North for 5 years ahead of time, maybe. So it does happen. And not at the cost of other things, just sometimes we get surprised. And it's always good.
That prepayment came out of the sewage treatment insurance.
Insurance, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's a loan, whereas a debenture normally, I'm surprised that we were actually able to get some leverage in getting a floating rate
Yeah,
for a debenture, because these debentures are sold out on the open market to investors.
but maybe they don't sell everything. I don't know how they do it. But anyway.
Quite possible.
And that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
look. And also, Ozio, last time we had variable floating rate. We had prime minus 2%.
Yes, prime is currently 3.7%.
How much?
3.7%.
Yeah, but it was prime minus 2%, so it should be 1.7%. That was because we're a town. If you remember, Pat, Tony, you were chairman of the finance committee on this. I don't know if you remember. Because at the time, the prime was 2.5, and we could have got the loan at 0.5%.
Yeah, that's going back into,
About 10 years ago, yeah. So I don't know why we don't get the 2% off again.
We are actually getting 0.75%.
0.75% we got? Okay,
Yes, from prime, that's what they said.
okay. But Dan or Sana, you said it's 2.7? Well, we get
It's 2.56 to 3.15.
Oh, it's supposed to be 3.15?
It's a range,
And we
yes.
got- Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
But we will get 0.75 off of this, or it's already included?
it's already included.
Okay.
That's already the net.
Okay, I like, coming back, I like option Bank A for all kind of reasons. lots of, Bank D doesn't seem to be, there's a floating rate, I guess, but we don't know where it is. And they say it's only for 20 years, Bank D?
Yes.
Yeah, so we see, that's why Bank A was my choice. I would go Bank A with 25 years and floating rate for 2.5 million or whatever you do. So what do you do also? So
But-
say you get 2.5 million of floating rate. Do you pay the big amount and then you pay it faster on this, or?
You would pay the small amount is where you would be allowed to make a prepayment.
Okay, so they don't charge you the
They will charge you a different rate for the,
for both, right? Or they act as two loans?
yeah, it's 2 loans, yeah.
Okay,
that's
okay,
right.
okay. Yeah, so what would happen with this is that it's good. If we manage to pay it earlier, is now, instead of being the 25-year, we might end up being shorter. Is that what they would do? They would reduce the length? Or they would just?
It will
say
be
they'll-
the same length.
But
will
it'll be
s-
a smaller amount you pay?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's how, you cannot go the other way too? Like some loan you could both ways?
I'm not sure about that.
Oh,
But it will be the period will be the same, the rates will be different.
yeah. But
As a
sometimes if you pay the
result-
3 million, then they reduce your, instead of 25 years now, you bring it down 2 years, 3 years.
They
right?
only reduce the amount that you are paying.
Yeah.
Because remember
No, but yeah, if you reduce the amount and still pay 319,000, then the length is not the same. It'd be shorter.
No, the length will be the same because the bigger amount you have already contracted it for 20 years. So it will continue for that period. But then the smaller amount is where you are allowed to repay.
But would they let you pay the same amount and shorter the term? That's important. I know it doesn't seem like it, but.
They will reduce the amount that you pay,
Okay.
but the period will remain the same that you contracted. So my problem with Bank A is that at the 10-year mark, you have to go to the market. And then after that, at the 5th year mark, after 10 years, you go to the market. And after the next 5 years, you go to the market. So each time you go to the market, you risk a higher rate.
But it could be higher, it could be lower.
Yeah, that's true. It could be lower. But if we listen to all the bank economists, they're saying it's going up.
Yeah, I think the reason for the flexibility was, you know, with the aquatic center, I mean, fundraising is always ongoing. It's not because it's built, that's it. So we were looking for something flexible in case we do receive some donations, as Councillor Chamier said, so we can put them on the loan. You know, for me, I'm not a finance banker, but, and I really don't see a lot of difference between the A and the D. But my only reason for going with D would be, as recommended, would be the fact that we are taking a risk going out into the open market 10 and 15, and it could be up or it could be down, and we don't know that, but as Hosea has said, the experts are saying that chances are it's going to be higher, and that's why I would support D.
But Tony, that's the same expert that told us 10 years ago that we should have went to a fixed rate, which we did, not go variable, and it cost us probably $1 or $2 million, looking back.
If we could read the
Exactly.
future, wouldn't that be great, eh?
Exactly.
You know, but we are a democratic society, so at the end of the day, we're going to vote anyways.
And
But
D-
I certainly know where you're coming from.
And D only has 20 years too.
Councillor Roman.
I'm of the opinion that I would prefer to see the 20-year option as opposed to the 25-year option. And I'm the type of person that likes to know what's coming. I prefer to know what my interest rate's going to be over the term, as opposed to being surprised 10, 15 years down the road. I would be in favor of the Bank D option with a 20-year term.
And I know in 10 years, I'm going to get an email from Chamis if that interest rate is down, saying, hey, I told you that interest rate was going down.
One more.
Yeah,
Another thing I thought and I forgot about this, sorry, thank you for reminding me. The pool is supposed to last between 35 and 40 years. So I don't know why it's not like at home where we have to pay, nobody else got to pay for us. The pool should be paid by the people for the next 25 years, 30 years even, because everybody that uses it should be paid for it. And that would be a more fair way to do it. So why pay in 20 years? Now, then it's paid, and the people coming in, which are, now by that time they're 40, now they don't have to pay for the pool, but they still got use it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
for me, that's a town thing. Everybody should be paying for it, and
Yeah, no, it is important. I guess it's like anything. The longer you take to pay, it's maybe fairer for everybody, but you're paying more interest as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So that's the downside of it,
Yeah.
What's fair, makes it difficult. Is there any other discussion on that? Because that's going to be coming back as a bylaw for, I guess, for a vote if there's no other discussion.
And how did I write that bylaw? Like there was
Well,
quite a few different options.
Joanne will figure that out, don't worry.
The bylaw is written with the recommendation from Hosea.
And we can support it or turn it down.
Turn it down.
That might be the best. Okay, item B, Hosea, you're going to talk on the wastewater treatment plant insurance claim allocation of funds.
So we got these funds from the claim for the wastewater treatment plant that collapsed. And staff are recommending that this be put in the wastewater capital reserve funds. Council may be aware that the wastewater reserve fund is fairly new, started last year, therefore it doesn't have any funds in it. In actual fact, it's in deficit. So if we put some money aside, it will help rehabilitation of the wastewater treatment plants when problems occur.
Councillor Mino.
But say the long-term plan involved the wastewater as well, for us to replenish it with reserve funds as we went along?
That's true, yes.
So is this going to bring us how many years ahead, or how many, what are we looking at?
Actually, as I said, it's the fund is in deficit. Yeah, it's about 250,000 in deficit. So this will help us. It's a stepping stone to start building the reserves.
So does it put us on track with the 20-year, it was a 20-year plan we had, Jim, remember? It was a 20-year financing plan for the reserves, right? It puts us on track, like for year 2 type thing?
I'm not sure.
It puts us on track to be able to meet that.
Okay.
Because the fund is new itself, and everything that we were talking about kind of began 2 years ago, year and a half ago. We already have lost a year and a half.
Right.
This will catch us up to it, but it really will depend then on, what other surprises could be coming down the pipe too.
But the plan was to reach that amount that we're going to put aside
That's
today,
right.
which is-
The ideal would be to be able to pay for whatever costs come for wastewater out of that reserve. And at this point, the government has not made that mandatory, so we still have other options. But we would like to have
Sure.
a war chest set up, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, I agree with this, Hosea, because, this to me makes sense. It's from the wastewater treatment insurance, keeps it in that fold. That's where we need to have reserves, is in the water and the sewer. And I just want to further clarify that the deficit that you speak of was not because of something that was done at the council table in mistake. This was done because we were told by somebody who's no longer with the organization that sewer was going to be covered on the Connecting Link project, which I never believed. But anyways, here we are today with a $250,000 deficit because of something that was told to council erroneously. So I just wanted to clarify that and make sure that people understand that this was not a mistake that was made, you know, some blunder around the council table.
That is correct.
Councillor Roman.
The fact now that water and wastewater are separate from the tax levy, can a portion of this be directed towards the water capital reserve? Say, to pay for, say, the valve that
Yeah.
we just replaced?
It's actually a council decision. You can do that.
Okay, so it's
As,
possible.
as Wolf said, it's not mandatory to have a separate wastewater fund. Therefore, any funds that we earmark for wastewater, a decision can be made by council to put it somewhere else.
Okay, so we could direct 111,000 of this towards the water reserve to pay for the valve that we just replaced.
I'm not sure whether we can do that for water and wastewater.
I
But
just want to,
wastewater
that's
and
what
general
That's what
fund.
I'm asking.
like tonight, we approved a recommendation that we're doing a application for some funding, and that was included in it. I'm wondering if that would contradict that application at all.
And it's very possible that the amount that we're talking about would be more than what our share would be under the funding program. So just pointing that out. It is council's decision where to put the money. If we do get the funding, you're sitting very, very sweet. If you don't get the funding, then you have a $111,000 hit to your water. I don't have the numbers in front of me, what's in that budget, but it's certainly more capable of handling that hit than the sewer budget is right now. And that's where we're coming from. We just put it on the table for council to consider.
Then I'm comfortable with it going to
Okay.
the wastewater reserve.
Yeah, there's lots of good places we could put $413,000. I know Councillor Shamier, I'd like to see us resurface Tweedsmuir from the tracks up to the school, and there's lots of other areas. But I think, as Councillor Morgan said, it came from the wastewater treatment facility insurance. So, what better place to put it would be back into the wastewater, as recommended by staff. But that itself will be coming back as a bylaw as well. Item C, Canada 150 funding.
So with this fund, this was a reimbursement for work that had been done on the park. I forget which park it is. Civic Park. So staff are recommending that we put this into a reserve fund, Parkland Reserve Fund. At the last meeting, there was discussion on whether to put it in a reserve fund or just reserves, and staff were asked to go back and come with a new position, and this is the position of staff, that we put this in Parkland Reserve Fund for future expenses on the parks.
I want to clarify, if I may, that it is for all the parks. Kinross, we already have some of the work that has to be done on the pavement, et cetera. These dollars would be there for council to direct as needed. It is not for, our recommendation is that it's not for annual maintenance, but it is for the expansion or large capital upgrades, and that you do have your dollars aside for if there is any kind of funding money that comes forward.
Councillor Roman.
Yeah, and this is one that I'm not in support of. I believe we've been spending enough money on parks lately. This money could certainly go towards replenishing what we did spend on the Civic Park. If you create a reserve fund just for parks, when budget time comes around, any recommendations for park upgrades don't go up against the same sort of pressures then that any other sort of capital upgrades require, because it has its own separate fund. And I would prefer that in the future, if a park does need something, that it goes up against every other request, and not have its own separate little pot of money. So I would much prefer to see this money just directed into general coffers.
Councillor Kiley, then Councillor Morgan.
Here we go again on the reserve funds. We don't have a firm policy in place. This is kind of found money, I agree. But I would rather see it go into the reserve fund specifically for that purpose. So I would support this recommendation.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, I'm with Councillor Roman on this one. At the very least, a reserve for this, but certainly I'm not in favor of a reserve fund. I think these funds should be accessible to the municipality at large. If we want to earmark them for parks, that's fine, but to set up the, all the rigmarole that goes with a fund, I don't see where that's serving the municipality well. So I'm in favor of a reserve or just in general reserves.
Councillor Chamier.
Yeah, I'm more with Pat's side. Canada 150 was created for mostly like activities, like parks and stuff like this. And they make an application toward them, and that's the money they got. They didn't get that money to fix a road or to fix something. They got the money for the bien-être, the good of the people in Kirkland Lake. I think we might be surprised how much the parks are used in town. For example, Kinross, there's people there all the time. Civic could be used more, but there's still quite a few people. And when the school starts, there'll be people there. And all the other little parks that most councillors probably cannot name more than 2, but there's quite a few around town that are hiding and people use, especially with little kids with their slides and stuff like this. And we just had that problem 3 years ago, Bonnie, maybe? We have to change all our slides and all our, 3-4 years ago? Because we had wood and it was not good. Now they wanted plastic. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen again in 2 years where slides have to be changed or things have to be fixed to be safer. I know, Jim, it doesn't go across, but I think for me, as a councillor, what's important is people have to be active outside, and that's what we do. Even the ski trail, in the winter, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's always a fight. That money was received to go toward activities, and that's where it should go.
But it did go towards Civic Park, well in excess of $100,000 went towards Civic Park, and that's what the application was for. So we spent that money on Civic Park already. Now, if there's any upgrades required in the future, sure, I'm not saying I wouldn't entertain looking at those upgrades, but they should go up against every other project that's needed in town, the road upgrades and the sewers and everything else, not a special little pot of money just for parks. That's where I'm coming from.
Councillor Kiley.
I agree with Councillor Chamier. I think we can spread that $100,000 out into more park activities or upgrades when they're needed. And yeah, I recognize the Civic was the main part of that application. But I think this gives us the opportunity to be able to spread that out amongst the different parks in the area, the trails, as you mentioned as well. So I would rather see it done that way, personally.
Councillor Mino.
Yeah, I spoke to this last time we brought it up, and my defense for a reserve fund is that a fund needs to have council resolution to access, and therefore that's the safest way to put it in. And this way, we could actually borrow it for projects that are outside of the scope of recreation and then put it back if need be. So that gives us that extra option, but it is intended for recreational purposes. My worry is that we don't want to run this into an operational thing. So when you talk about major parkland upgrades, maybe there should be an amount, a dollar amount to that. That, I would only caution it that way, because this way, putting a new slide might become, a major project improvement, and maybe to me, it's just an operational thing. You should put it in your budget. So, yeah, I support the fund all the way for those reasons.
Okay, that's going to be coming back as a bylaw as well. Okay, 6.3, Joanne?
Okay, we've had a request from the Prostate Awareness Group. They're asking for council to declare a month, September 2018. So I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Morgan, that council declares September 2018 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in and for the town of Kirkland Lake.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
The next request comes from Kirkland Lake Pro-Life. This is their 26th year of holding the pro-life chain. And I have a resolution that is moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council approves the Kirkland Lake Pro-Life request to hold the International Life Chain on Sunday, September 30th, 2018, on both sides of Government Road West between Oaks Avenue and McChesney Avenue from 2 to 3 p.m.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
The next request came from the 100th Anniversary Committee. They're getting ready for our centennial celebration next year. They're looking to purchase banners to put along the lampposts, the banners that we hold. The cost of this is $8,000, and it is being donated anonymously from somebody. So before they go and spend this $8,000, they would like to know that they have council's commitment that they can hang the banners for this entire season. So I have a resolution that's moved by Councillor Morgan and seconded by Councillor Kiley.
Yep.
Sure.
The banners, are they running across the street?
No, these are the ones that hang from the poles.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I know that they are investigating the one that runs across the street, but there's complications to that, and they're working on it.
So Joanne,
Councillor Chamier.
that would be for next year, they're gonna hang
Yes,
this?
for
Yeah.
2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council approves the request from the 100th Anniversary Committee to hang 80 banners on the lamp posts from April 1st to September 30th, 2019.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, item 6.4, Wilf, you're back up in Ashley's absence.
I'm back up, but I got a partner. Okay, we're asking for permission to apply for TOPA funding under OSIF. Basically, we do have the project dollars in front of you. Total project cost $898. Town's contribution $105. We need to get the applications in by, I think it is August 28th, so we have some pressures here. We're basically asking for that permission to put that application in.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council approves the application to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the Community Infrastructure Fund, for the reconstruction of drainage area D2, which includes Poplar Avenue, the intersection of Poplar Avenue and Comfort Street to Park Street, Park Street, the intersection of Poplar Avenue and Park Street to Taylor Avenue, that the submitted application meets the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, top-up application funding program as described in the program guide. A comprehensive asset management plan has been completed and publicly posted. The municipality will comply with all the conditions that apply by the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund top-up application funding program, and the application is complete and factual.
All in favor? Yes.
Just a question, Dixit. We've been spending and working a lot on the south end of town to try and improve the water quality, particularly in the McKelvey area, which was identified as a real problem area. At some point in the future, can we get an update on just whether there's any improvement at all and how we're making out on that?
Yeah, basically when we applied, started south and end of the Wood Street under the OCF first intake, that was actual plan, because that's the main system, but we are upgrading the downstream first so we can accommodate everything going towards the main concept to get there. So that's why this is actually happening, to get there and improve that area.
We're, certainly council, I think, is aware of that. We'd just like to know if we're making some headway or not, or whether it's still, not anticipated to improve until a couple more phases are
Yeah,
taken.
oh,
So,
definitely.
okay,
Couple of
thanks.
more years.
Councillor Roman.
I just had a quick question about this. I'm in favor of the project. I'm just wondering, do these costs include the asphalt?
Yeah, it's include everything.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Chamier.
So was that a problem, that corner? Is that why we're doing that one and not, or was that not, that was not part of the Wood Street project?
This is actually, the Wood Street was in a 5 phase. This is the Wood Street
Oh,
project
it is the
coming,
Wood Street
moving
project,
forward.
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, item 6.4, B, request for easements from Hydro One. Item B? Nope. Request for,
I'm sorry, a little distracted. This is simply us working with our utility partners to extend services. It's basically just a request for the easements, fairly straightforward. The documentation is included in the package.
okay, and that'll come back, and that'll be back as a bylaw at the end. Oh, Councillor Morgan.
Back
Or
on-
Councillor Mino, I'm sorry.
Well, back on the, back on the subject of reserves, you're saying I thought that we had to put it in the reserves for the Archer.
For Archer,
Yeah, you said there is a revenue of 4,000, right? And you're recommending the revenue be placed in the Archer Drive Reserve Fund.
the,
Under budget implications? She does say that.
can you bring it up?
Yeah,
on
it's
there?
right there, budget implications.
I'm trying to find it. Because it's happening on Archer Drive,
Yeah.
yes, we'd like to put that back into
No,
Archer Drive
I'm
Reserve
just
Fund.
questioning your choice of words, and, because I thought by bylaw, we had, anything that generates revenue from the Archer Drive work has to go back to the Archer Drive Reserve Fund automatically.
I agree, but I didn't write that, so I think
Okay.
that she was just trying to clarify it
Okay.
with the council.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 6.5, Fire Chief is coming up to talk to us about contracted services for dispatch.
Okay, currently the town has an agreement with Northern 911 for fire dispatch. They contacted us recently, and the price is going to be going up from $1,300 a month to $2,000 a month. So I've been in contact with North Bay CACC. They say they can offer the same services for $700 a month. So I'm just looking for direction, like, can I make an agreement with North Bay CACC for dispatch services?
I guess my question would be, are they providing the same services, number one, and
They say they are.
and
yes.
will we be without a service if we, is there a transition to this new?
Yeah, we wouldn't be without
No.
service. No.
Okay. Of course, for me, of course.
Rob, did you check around to make sure, like, did you ask about other communities using that system, if they're happy with it, or?
We actually use North Bay CACC for the ambulance calls,
Okay,
so we're already using them.
oh, so that would be,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
but we
that's-
actually have two different services,
Yeah, that's
one
crazy.
for ambulance, one
1,300
for
to
fire.
2,000, and not 700. Oh. I know what's going on there.
I think you have our blessing.
Yeah,
Am I-
you have.
Am I reading council? There's a
Yeah,
resolution.
Yeah, I'd just
for
like to
that
make
as
sure
well.
that.
Yep, certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd like authority to negotiate, right?
yeah.
Yeah, there is a resolution. Oh, yep.
Rob, in the next month or two, if necessary, could you give us an update on the fire service master plan? What progress we've made?
Sure.
And I think, because of the new council coming in, would be prudent to realize that some of these things have been done and what we have to work on, just to give us an idea.
Sure,
So if you could.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
for sure.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council approves staff pursuing the option of changing contracted emergency dispatch services to North Bay CACC, and that a bylaw be brought back for council's consideration.
All in favor? That's carried unanimous. Thank you. Okay, item 7, introduction, reading, and consideration of the bylaws.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-110, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and treasurer to execute a 20-year debenture with TD Commercial Banking for the new Kirkland Lake Aquatic Center, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and against?
Against?
It's passed. 5 and 2.
It's carried. Thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-113, being a bylaw to authorize the treasurer to establish a parkland reserve fund and allocate the Canada 150 proceeds, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
All in favor?
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and against?
Against? Thank you. That's carried, 5-2.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-114, being a bylaw to authorize the treasurer to allocate the wastewater treatment plant insurance claim proceeds to the wastewater reserve fund, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-115, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute all documents related to the sale of laneway to the rear of 73 Federal Street to Serge Barrett and Catherine Villeneuve, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
All in favor? Thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-116, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute all documents related to the sale of 590 Archer Drive to 1753495 Ontario Limited, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
I'm just not familiar with this sale. Is there,
That is the new waste contract.
That's the company that will be coming in to do the new waste contract. They are expanding a physical operation here as well.
so they'll be building a location here?
Yes, they
Kirkland
will.
Lake? That's great news. Thank you. All in favor?
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-118, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute an easement agreement to Hydro One over mining claims L16620 and L1355, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-119, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute an easement agreement to Hydro One over mining claims L5687, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
All in favor? Thank you. It's carried.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-120, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute an easement agreement to Hydro One over mining claims L3468 and L2936, be read a first, second, and third time, and acted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
And it's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-112, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute, 122, sorry, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute a negotiated community improvement plan contract with J.L. Richardson Associates, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
I would just like to say, I'm sorry this isn't on this agenda, the one that's online. I wasn't able to amend this agenda, so it is on the paper copy.
Thank you for that. Okay, any notices of motion? None? Confirmation bylaw?
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-121, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held August 21st, 2018, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you. Councilors' reports. Councillor Shamiard.
Yeah, Tony, I just want to talk about the 100-year committee. Those guys have been working so hard, it's unbelievable. They were July 1st, they spent the day at the July 1st activities, selling cheese and raising money. They went to the steam show, and Saturday was, sadly I couldn't go, but I heard it was awesome. Sold out. The other complaint I had was there was too many people, which is a good thing to have.
Sure is.
There was lineups, and they sold all the ribs, and there was maybe a few pulled pork left sandwich at the end of the day. It was awesome, from what people told me, and they really enjoyed it. I'm sure most of you had a chance to go, but I miss them. But I don't want to mention any name because there's a lot of people working hard there, and if I mention two or three, I'll miss 10. So they are a great committee, and anything they want to do, I will approve everything until I'm not here anymore.
Yep.
So congrats on them.
Yeah, I certainly echo your thoughts on that, Councillor Shamiard, and thank you. Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, I just want to bring to the attention of council, in the village of Chapious, there's a number of derelict properties that, put it this way, if somebody lit a match in the village, it's going to burn half the village down. And most of these properties have been abandoned for years. They're on leased land. And I realize we don't have a bylaw enforcement officer at this time, but I would like to see some review of those properties to put it on the to-do list, because it is pretty scary. All the streets are very narrow, and the houses are very close together. So if a fire ever started, it could be a catastrophe. And I don't want to see the town liable, and I don't want to see any of our good citizens injured or deceased. So just bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Councillor Mino.
Yeah, well, this is for you and your staff. I'd just like to commend you on the reports that you've put forward here to this council anyways, because they're concise, they're very timely, and it's a good read. It's easy to understand. So you know what, if you can keep up this pattern, I'm sure that the public as well will be interested in reading this stuff and being kept abreast, much like we are. So just pass my congratulations and
Thank you.
commendment to the staff and the
Thank
people
you.
who work with
Well,
you.
we are working together to try to get things more uniform like that, so.
Certainly echo what Councillor Mino said as well. Wilf, you guys have been working really hard. The staff's been working hard. I think you have a real team going now. And you certainly, you and your managers and everyone should be congratulated. Today I had the privilege of attending Extendicare 50th anniversary in Kirkland Lake, and on behalf of council, I thank them for improving the quality of life for many, and also on a business side for being good partners in Kirkland Lake. They hire a heck of a lot of staff. They're good supporters of our local vendors, and so I extended our council's thanks to them. As well, further to what Councillor Shamiard was saying about the 100th anniversary a few weeks back, I think I had the privilege of attending the grand opening, and they have a great location there. Again, it was thanks to an unknown donor, which is, certainly shows the generosity of the people in Kirkland Lake. And that was it for the, I guess, no other comments. That'll be it for the meeting.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council adjourn its regular meeting of August 21st, 2018, to an in-camera meeting to discuss 2 possible litigation issues, 1 request to lease, and 1 possible land acquisition and transfer.
All in favor? That's carried. Meeting's adjourned.
I can't believe I voted against you. Second time in 4 years, Jim.